Yay! Okay. Welcome to this week's live. I was having technical difficulties. It made me log out, log back in. Welcome, welcome. Hello, Thomas and Lene. I appreciate you being here. And I knew you were waiting, but I could not get in for the life of me. My printer won't print, all the things, right? I was like, no, no, don't do this to me. I, I don't know what to do. Uh, And then my phone, it sends a code to your phone. You have to tap yes. I sent that 5 times, I think. I would tap yes on YouTube and it would not go anywhere. So, anyway, we're here. I see people are voting in the poll. Hello, Emily and Gina. Do I have that right? Welcome, welcome. And you both are in green, which is amazing, which means that you are members of the inner circle. So that all happened last week. So, yes, thank you for being here. Uh, Vote in the poll if you haven't yet. Today we're talking about something that has come up a few times in past lives and in comments on my videos, that when a lot of times when we've gone our life, most of our life, and like for Emily, who's still young yet, but always putting other people first. And then when we get brave or courageous or just get so pissed off that we start speaking up, then it starts to feel like I'm the problem. Wait, I just said what was on my mind or said what hurt me or spoke my opinion, and now suddenly I've become the problem in this situation. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And oh my gosh, we have 25% across the board. When you've spoken up for yourself in the past, what stops you from doing it again in the future? The guilt that I felt afterwards, the judgment that I got or sensed. I feel like I'm the problem or a burden. It feels wrong or hurtful to be direct. Um, so I would love for you to put in the chat, like, which one resonated with you the most, and like give me more detail, give me more, maybe an example, or um just something more, right? I can only put so many words in the poll, so many letters, and so it limits me on yes, I get that you are here, Line and Thomas joining through his account. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate that. Um, so yeah, the poll will only let you put in so many characters, and so I'm limited on like how detailed I can get in the examples or in the question. Gina said for her, it always gets turned around on me when I speak up. I'm curious to know, like in the past, were you the one to always stay silent, not speak your mind, and now suddenly as an adult, I don't know how old you are, but now you've gotten to the point where you're like, dang it, I want to speak up for myself, or it just feels too heavy to carry this all the time, right? To carry the hurt or the emotions of other people, or not living your dreams, the life that you want, living by other people's rules and their parameters instead of living freely the life that you want. But it feels wrong suddenly, right? When we've put ourselves last for so long and put everybody else first for so long, it suddenly feels wrong to put myself first, right? And so then I tell myself that the guilt is telling me that I did do something wrong, or the judgment that I got or sensed from them tells me that I'm the problem, like actually feeling like the problem, or maybe like a burden. Like I don't want to tell them that because that would hurt them. And then I'm the bad guy, right? Or because I've been nice for so long, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything all at all. So it became a habit for me to always put other people first and to always make sure that I was nice. But in the grand scheme of things, like as a little kid, how did I know what was actually nice or not? And so what I did as a kid was I just stopped speaking up at all because I didn't know what the rules were. I didn't know what was going to be considered nice or not nice. And so it's just easier, safer, right, to not speak up at all. Then I'm not going to get in trouble for saying something not nice. So Emily said, Gina said, whatever the topic is. You said you voted number 2, the judgment you got or sensed. It always gets turned around on you when you speak up, whatever the topic is. And like turned around how? Like, are they outright saying, that's dumb, you're wrong, why would you say that? Or is it ridiculed or and who are these people? Like it's important to know, um, are these just acquaintances? Are they family? Is it close friends? Is it your partner? Like, who is the person that's, that's turning it around on you? That is important to know, whatever the topic is you said. So, Emily said, "When I stood up for myself, my friend would always get mad, and then I'd feel like I was a problem and being a burden for even standing up and for speaking up." Right. Um, Lena, I'm assuming it's you that's responding. I chose feels hurtful or wrong to be direct because I thought about when I might have been direct to my mom and she acted hurt afterwards. So after that, I just stopped being direct. Right. So someone else's reaction then makes us think that we're wrong, that we're being hurtful, that I need to adjust how I'm being in my life in order to satisfy someone else, even based on a look, right? Like Lene said, um, she acted hurt afterwards, right? Like, I don't know what she did. I had a client, and I've told this story before. Her mother in law used to belittle her so shamelessly that it was hurtful to me just to hear the stories that her of what her mother-in-law would do to her. But my client thought it was my client's responsibility that she was causing her mother-in-law to do this to her, and that if she just stayed silent, or if she was just nicer, or if she was just more accommodating, or she did more shit for her, or whatever, right? If she just My client thought if she just changed her behavior, then her mother-in-law's behavior and belittling would stop, because my client felt like clearly she was the problem, that she was causing it. And that's what we're talking about in today's live. Um, so Gina said, I feel all of those. Stem from childhood, and even while raising my kids, when I would speak up for them, it's a problem. Like, I'm curious with who, like, when you would speak up for them with their friends or with teachers or, um, with their dad. Now my adult children do not want to come around unless it's outside the home. Yeah, bummer. They say I'm wrong. If I say, for instance, to my partner, I feel disrespected, when my partner will say, well, you disrespect me when you. So, right, we get in these pissing matches, right? Of trying to explain and prove why we feel the way we do. And It's great if you can, Gina, like, phrase it like you said, "I feel disrespected," right? And you can actually stop the conversation there, and what I would invite you to try the next time, because it sounds like maybe this is an ongoing thing, I I feel disrespected, period. And if this conversation continues in this direction, I'm leaving the room. Or I feel disrespected. I'm going to take a timeout, right? You're doing this for you. And if they follow you into the other room or, wherever you go to take your time out, like my ex, I would lock the bathroom door to take time for myself, to calm myself down, because I knew if I stayed in the conversation, which was going nowhere and it was getting very reactive, because that's what someone with narcissistic personality disorder will do, is they know how to push your buttons. They love to push your buttons because that is what feeds them. And as sick as that sounds, that is the truth about that dynamic. So in order for me to be able to get away, I would go in the bathroom and lock the door. He would pick the lock, or he would stand outside the bathroom and torment me from outside the bathroom door. And then he could say, "Well, she reacted, right? She got defensive. She locked herself in the bathroom," right? And pointing the finger at me. So we have to be really aware of how we are showing up in this situation, and explaining and arguing does nothing, right? It does absolutely nothing, because it just gives the other person, typically, if especially if they are not a healthy person, it gives the other person fuel for their fire. I know Thomas and Line, I've seen some of their videos together, and it seems as though they have a great relationship. If Thomas, for instance, is a healthy person, which I'm assuming he is, emotionally healthy and supportive in their relationship, Line should be able to go to him and say, because we're human, right? We're going to hurt each other's feelings, and say, "Thomas, I feel hurt, or I feel sad, or I feel disconnected. And here's why," right? And a healthy person is going to respond to that in a healthy way, in a supportive way. We talked about that last week in the live stream. So I'm just curious, Thomas and Lena, if you could put in the chat if you feel like that's true, like you can support each other in that way. That that helps us clarify that I do have the right to speak up, that it is okay to speak. It just ends up not being okay with certain people, right? And so if you have a relationship in your life where you feel heard and seen and supported, I put a video out on Sunday about how I realized I spent my life feeling unseen. And there were a few comments in the chat, in the comment section of that video, from women who have always felt unseen, unheard, right? But if we can find someone in our life, a friend, whoever it is, that sees us, that hears us, that gives us that evidence that when I speak my mind, it is heard, it is seen. And if you don't have anybody like that in your life, I invite you to go find that person, because it's not that you're wrong in speaking what's true for you. It's it's the other person, that because maybe you have always been the giver, always been the one to do and to placate and to be the one to back down. You always acquiesce, meaning you always give in, right, to the demands of others or to the ridiculing. You believe what they say about you. We've had that conversation in live streams before that I believe it when they tell me I'm fat or right? When we believe what other people say, we lose trust in ourselves. We lose our ability to use our voice because that becomes a belief. And again, if you're in the inner circle, that first video in there is powerful to help you understand how your beliefs about yourself are driving everything. Let's see. I'm going to catch up here. It was with my partner when I tried to speak up on behalf of the kids. Yeah, um, that is really hard. Okay, let me back up here. So Gina said, I feel all those stem from childhood, and even while raising my kids, when I would speak up for them, it became a problem. Now my adult children do not want to come around unless it's outside the home. They say I'm wrong. If I say, for instance, to my partner, I feel disrespected when you, my partner, will say, well, you disrespect me when you yeah, so again, I know I touched on that already. Like, when they turn it around on you, then that needs to be the end of the conversation. I'm not gonna stay in this conversation unless you're willing to hear my side of it, right? And if they're not willing to give you space to hear your side of things and how you feel, no one can deny how you feel about something. And I had this aha moment a couple of years ago. I was really upset about something that had happened with someone that was fairly new in my life. And I was ruminating on how I felt. And if that then I got to this point in my thinking about it where I heard a voice say, well, do you do you have the right to feel this sad about what happened? And then it was suddenly like this brick to the head moment. It's like, I don't have to have the right to feel anything. If I feel sad about it, I feel sad about it, right? That's my reality in the moment. And I don't have to justify. Maybe I am overreacting, but maybe that's just where my nervous system is at the moment. So there's no right or wrong to how you feel. Gina, if you feel disrespected, you feel disrespected. Now the question is, what are we going to do about that? Right? If that's a continual thing, is that something that you want to continue to tolerate? Right? Because I would say you're tolerating it. If someone else is telling you, well, you just, throwing it back in your face basically, um, then then it's not that you need to explain yourself more or that you don't have the right to feel disrespected and that you need to change how you feel, right? You aren't the problem. The problem is you are continuing to accept that behavior, right? Is this something that you want to continue to accept? Again, that goes to the belief, it all goes back to the beliefs that we have about ourselves, right? Maybe you feel, maybe you have the belief that you're not strong enough to speak up for yourself, that you're not strong enough to be out in life alone. Maybe your belief is, um, I am doing something wrong. I am the problem, right? A lot of those beliefs stem from what we were conditioned to believe about ourselves as kids. And it all goes into these unconscious patterns. It, a- Again, I've talked about this in other lives that we're born basically like as blank computers, right? And as we grow up, as we are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, everything that we experience goes in as the software that that is the program that our life is run from. That's what drives the car of our life, right? So if you're constantly going off in the ditch, if your driver of your car is constantly taking you into the ditch and crashing, then we have to look at who's driving the car. Who's driving the car is your unconscious patterns. Okay, why is that valuable to know? Then I need to figure out what are those unconscious patterns that are driving me. They're different for all of us, right? My one of my main drivers was the fear of disappointing someone. That was my biggest hurdle to overcome, but I didn't realize that I believed by me doing certain things that I would disappoint someone. I didn't realize that was a faulty belief. I'm not responsible for you being disappointed. You're not responsible for your partner being hurt. You're not responsible. I'm not saying that you can't do hurtful things, but their emotions, how they feel, are their responsibility. Your feelings are your responsibility. So I'm I can't take on when someone if I disappoint someone in my life, I cannot take on then doing everything I possibly can to stop their disappointment. They have to learn how to take responsibility. It's the ability to respond. That's where responsibility comes from. It's the ability to respond. But what usually happens is we react. And remember, I talked about this. I don't remember if it was in a video or in a live, but if you break down the word react, means again. The letters RE means again. You put RE in front of anything and it means basically again. So react means to act again. When we are reacting, we are we are acting upon something that already happened. And that is just going to be this defensive spiral that it's really hard to get out of. Gina, just like you said, when you say, I feel disrespected, then the partner says, well, you disrespect me, right? He has reacted to what you said. We can never get anything accomplished when we are in reactionary mode. So we have to learn how to be responsible, the ability to respond. If that means I need to step back to think, okay, why am I getting worked up here? Why do I feel like the problem? Why why like what is at the root of this? Do I not feel safe in this moment? Gina, maybe that's it for you. Like when he responds that way, when he reacts, sorry, he didn't respond. He's reacting from something that already happened and it's not your fault. He is just in reactive mode. Oh, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. When he reacts, most likely your nervous system, if it's not already there, senses danger. It's not something you physically go, oh my gosh, I'm in danger, right? But our nervous system, especially if I think you said that you were abused when you were young. So you have lived in fight or flight for a long time. Um, they say I'm wrong. If I say, for instance, my partner, I feel disrespected. Well, you disrespected me. Let me see. When I was abused as a child, yes, and told my parents and grandparents, it was ignored and nothing was done about it. And I think that's where it started when I didn't feel heard. Right. And because you didn't feel heard, you didn't feel safe ultimately. Right. And the unconscious mind, our brain, our body, our nervous system, its job is to keep us safe, to keep us alive. And so any sense of danger, like you didn't necessarily sense, like cognitively, logically sense danger when you weren't heard, but your body and your brain definitely sensed danger. And so you probably have lived in fight or flight for most of your life. And that fight or flight then feels normal. It feels normal then to start defending yourself against someone reacting to you. And it feels normal to take on, well, I'm the problem. If I just become the problem, then they'll calm down, right? If I just acquiesce and say, "You're right. You're right. I shouldn't have said that. I'm being too sensitive. I shouldn't have said it that way." Whatever, right? If you back down, then well, I don't remember where my mind was going. Then you're telling your subconscious, you're telling your unconscious, that just becomes a habit to back down and acquiesce and just take on, I'm the bad guy, I'm the problem, right? But all of this is based on a belief that was programmed in to your software, aka your brain, your unconscious, when you were young. And so the way out of this is to examine it. And again, Gina, I know that you joined the membership, so hopefully you watched that video in the membership that's about the iceberg and what's underneath the level of the iceberg. And that, again, it all comes back to our beliefs. It's all about our beliefs. Let me catch up here. And I'm so sorry that you went through that as a child, to be abused and then to be ignored and not heard, right? As an adult, now we get the chance, the opportunity, the gift to reparent ourselves and to become that little girl's um savior, if you will, like that protector of her, right? You no longer have to put up with abuse from other people. And I would invite you to consider, is your partner, I don't know if that's your current partner, um, is that feeling verging on a sense of abusiveness, right? But we become so comfortable with bad behavior from others, especially if you were abused as a child, that you just think this is the way it is and that that you have to accept it. And that maybe you're afraid if you don't accept it, that you'll be alone and that you can't survive on your own, right? These are all beliefs that are programmed in. And it's not necessarily overnight that we can switch them, but it can happen pretty fast because once the awareness is there, then it's game on, right? The awareness, what's hiding in your blind spot, you can't do anything about. Once you get awareness, it's like, oh, now what do I want to do about that? And I'm going to go into something that you actually can use as a tool to help you through these things. Um, it was your partner when you tried to speak up on behalf of the kids. Okay. So Miss M said, I feel like I'm not being heard when I stand up for myself. Maybe I'm not that important. Maybe my feelings don't matter anymore. Those are all beliefs that you have about yourself, Emily. So, okay, so Thomas and Lene said, yeah, that's true, that they have a supportive relationship, right? But Lene, when she goes to her mom and brings something up, then her mom acts hurt or behaves in some way that Lene gets the idea that she hurt her mom. You didn't hurt your mom. You just acted in a way that she didn't like, right? And so then again, as people pleasers, people always putting other people first, that we're in that habit of putting other people first. Now it's like, oh crap, I hurt her feelings. No, she is hurt because you're doing something that doesn't benefit her, where you used to do things that were to her benefit, that were, um, that made her maybe feel safe. So this is her work to do, right? Your mom's work to do. You have your work to do on what is truly mine versus what is not mine, right? And I'm gonna talk more about that. We got running here on fast. Okay, so Emily said, I used to have a friend who was there for me and would listen to me, but not anymore. She would always make it about her. So, was she a friend to begin with then? Um, I'm glad that I'm being heard in live streams more than I do in real life. Yeah, I'm glad you're here. We just have to figure out for you, Emily, like, who is that person, that you can find. Again, Codependence Anonymous might be a great place for you. I got two really, really, and this was years ago, but I still have two really close friends that I communicate with often. And it's great because they understand that codependent, right? That codependent arena, that place, and I can bounce things off of them and they can bounce things off of me. Like one of them started going back to meetings because she felt like she was falling back into old patterns again. So Emily, that is the first place I would encourage you to go. A lot of it is, I mean, it's great because it's free, right? There is in the description of this live stream, there is a list of books that have helped me tremendously, that have been very inspiring, and I'm gonna talk about one, um, today in a little bit, but in that list of links, there is the Codependence Anonymous book, um, that you could get it for yourself and just start there. But I think having someone that you can bounce things off of, you can find a sponsor in Codependence Anonymous. It's free. Again, it's free. Sponsors are free, and you would work with them like a coach, one-on-one at no cost to you. I highly, highly, highly encourage you, Emily, to look into that. Gina said, I do have the fear of disappointing someone and being alone, but I know that it's wrong and trying to work on it. It's not wrong, right? It's what you are conditioned to believe. It's these these things aren't wrong. And I think that's part of what we get into is, I don't know if I finished that story about, like, we get into these thinking our feelings are wrong. Our feelings aren't wrong. They're just messages. If you have the fear of disappointing someone, and then what is the message from that fear trying to tell you? And how is it keeping you from moving forward in your life in a way that you want to move forward in your life, that helps you live a fun and fulfilling life, that helps you live your dreams, that helps you reconnect with your kids in a different way, that helps you show up in a way that you feel proud and confident and alive and free, right? So feeling having the fear of disappointing someone is not wrong. I want to emphasize that it's not wrong to feel any of those things. It's what has been programmed into you. And so it's just a pattern that you're following. Trying to think of an analogy for that. Like if you found a pasture of grass, right? And so the grass is all standing up, maybe it's like knee height, thigh height, and you walk through it once, right? And you look back, you'll see a path there, right? Where the grass got trampled down just a little bit. But in a couple days, you might not be able to see where you walked, right? But if you walk down that day after day after day, the grass and in the same place, the grass is going to get worn down in that area, right? And you will clearly see a path where you've been walking. That's what happens to us when we're kids, right? The same things get repeated to us. You were abused, Gina. The brain and the body went into safety mode, like protection mode. I have to shrink. I have to not disappoint someone or I may get beaten, right? I don't know if it was physical abuse or mental abuse or emotional abuse or what kind of abuse it was, but abuse in any form makes the body go into fight or flight and makes the body shut down in order to protect, to stay safe, and ultimately to live, to stay alive and to survive. This goes back to caveman, cavewoman days when we had to be part of a tribe in order to survive. If we were kicked out from the tribe, who's going to keep the fire going? Who's going to go get the food while I take care of the kids, right? So that DNA has not changed a lot. And so our little lizard of a brain, right? That old primitive brain still goes back to that. Holy shit, as an adult, if I disappoint someone, I may not survive. That is just a pattern that got programmed in that you are now still running. That's what's driving your car and you keep going down in the ditch, right? Or you keep getting flat tires or whatever it is because you keep driving over nails or the driver keeps driving over nails, whatever. Um okay, so you have the fear of disappointing someone, right? You I definitely feel I live in fight or flight and want to break free from it. So, I'm going to give you a tool here shortly. I love life and ready to live it honestly. R- And that all comes from you, right? And just realizing that these are old patterns. They're not who you are unless you choose to continue to hold on to them and live by them. Emily said Codependence Anonymous does sound like it would be helpful because I need some extra support because I feel like my therapist is a broken record at the moment. And I've gotten that. I have a new client, and he said that he felt like the counselor that he had been seeing was just transactional. And so I get that a lot. And I think the difference that I found, and I have seen therapists as well, I think part of it can be finding the right one for you that fits you. I've also worked with a therapist who was very detrimental to what was happening in my relationship. Um, so I've worked with both. I think the difference between coaching, like what I do, is I help people get to the root of things, right? We can't have a tree that bears good fruit if the roots are rotten or that they're not getting the nourishment that they need and or that it was planted in, really bad soil or whatever, right? So that's where I help you go is to the root, the core of this. And what's at the core is the beliefs that were patterned in when you were young, when you didn't know any better, when you couldn't question, Why am I responsible for you being disappointed?" Right? We had no ability to do that as a kid. Why are you abusing me for, right? We just didn't have that capability when we were young. So yeah, Emily, Codependence Anonymous. So whatever extra help I can get will be really helpful. Right? Exactly. And again, I went for 3 years. It was such a good foundation to build because that is where I started. A week after my now ex-husband stormed out in a rage, he's the one with narcissistic personality disorder. I started going to Codependence Anonymous. So that was one of my base core foundations that I use to build where I'm at today. So we have to start somewhere. And I think that's a great place to start. Again, because it was free, it was like it takes away the excuse of I can't afford it, right? If you can afford an hour and a half a week, I think that's the meeting or an hour, right? Get there, and some of them are even online, so no excuse that, I don't have a car or I can't get there or whatever it is. Um, the type of abuse I had as a child can't be said on YouTube. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Mm, I'm so sorry that you went through that. I'm happy you're here. Um, I've had this therapist for a long time, Emily said, so maybe it's best to find a new one. Maybe it's best I just stick it out. That seems contradictory what you said. Um, if you feel like the therapist is not helping you, then find a new one or, get into Codependence Anonymous. Um, Gina said, I had an excellent therapist in the past, but she died of cancer about 5 years ago. Ugh, my current one is transactional. I agree with you, Emily. The extra sport would be great. Again, look into Codependence Anonymous. Or if you want to do coaching with me, I have coaching programs, so that's available too. Uh, the inner circle is there for you, and I will be building more videos in there. This is always available to you every Wednesday, right? So thank you so much for being here. Okay, so the judgment I got or sensed in the poll, and it feels wrong or hurtful to be direct, are the two that got the most votes. So let me see what I haven't talked about that I wanted to talk about. Um, this book I wanted to talk about. It's called Loving What Is by Byron Katie. And she says that Gina said, I will. I know it's time to make a change. Yes. Um, she says that so like we've been talking about I'm afraid to disappoint them, right? I'm afraid what will happen. What Byron Katie says, and her name is odd, right? Byron um, seems like a last name more or a man's name, and Katie is definitely a woman's first name, right? But her name is Byron Katie. She says, we don't attach to people or things. We attach to uninvestigated concepts that we believe to be true in the moment. So when you said, I think it was you, Gina, that you're afraid to disappoint. I have the fear of disappointing someone and being alone. You've attached yourself, and then thinking that that is wrong, you've attached yourself to that uninvestigated concept, right? And that's what's so important. And that's what I help people do is figure out, what am I believing that I think is true versus what is just my reality at the moment, right? Thinking that you will disappoint someone and then maybe you'll end up being alone, is that actually true? Is it a truth that if you disappoint someone, and I don't know necessarily for you that they go together, but or let's put it this way, is it true that if you disappoint someone, that you are the problem, that you caused that? Is that absolutely true? Is it a truth? No, it's just the story I'm telling myself. Exactly. So, what this book is all about, and again, there's a link to this down in the description, and I would love if you think you want to order the book. The link is through Amazon. It's an affiliate link, and I get, a few cents off of you ordering it, but it helps me, right, for you to order through the link. So we'll talk about the book a little bit more, and then if you decide to order it, go grab that link and order it through there. I would really appreciate it if that's feels right for you. So it's just the story you're telling yourself, right? It's just an uninvestigated, what does she say? An uninvestigated concept that you've had that story for so long, right? That it seems true. It seems like that is what really is going to happen, or that's really true, that I'm the problem if someone else is disappointed. And I totally get that. Like, that was my biggest hurdle to overcome, was the fear of disappointing someone. And I thought that if someone was or indicated, like, I just would sense it. I became so hyper hyper vigilant to people's reactions on their faces, or, my gosh, they didn't text me back right away, they must be mad, right? They must be disappointed, they must be upset, right? Like, all these things. Then I took it on that I did something wrong and that I was the problem. And then I go about changing my behaviors, apologizing, explaining, blah, 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 go into all this, kid logic behavior to make it not feel so painful inside. But that's me taking on that as a truth, that I disappointed them. They could end up, I could bring it up to them and they'd be like, "What are you talking about?" Right? Like, maybe they just had indigestion or something, right? We create these stories in our head. And Gina, like, you hit the nail on the head, right? It's just a story I'm telling myself. Emily said, "It's embarrassing that I'm the only one feeling like I'm the problem and I'm the burden for standing up for myself." Well, you're not the only one feeling like that here. So, again, is that just a story that you're taking on, that you feel that way? Maybe I just need to stop feeling like I'm the problem and burden. It's going to take work, but I'll get there. Absolutely. So, it, it's not just where necessarily you can say, it, I can stop feeling, I'm gonna stop feeling like a burden. It's investigating the uninvestigated concepts underneath it. What's underneath that? What is the belief that's driving that? So I want to read you this. So first, before I do that, reality. So the difference between truth and reality. Reality is what you're experiencing. So Emily, it's you feeling like a problem. It's you thinking you're a problem, right? Gina, it's you feeling like you're disappointing someone. You're not the only one feeling that way. Absolutely. Um, so reality is what you're experiencing. It's your reality in the moment, right? It's what you feel is true. But truth is what actually is. And I tell my clients this because a lot of times we get into this conversation when I'm coaching with them is a truth ultimately is what's true. It's only a truth if it's true for everyone. So it's no longer true for me to think that I'm responsible for someone else's disappointment. Therefore, it's not a truth. It's not a universal truth. A universal truth is something like gravity. It is true for everyone. Maybe my reality is that I feel like I'm going to disappoint someone or that I did that I feel like I disappointed someone, right? That's my reality in the moment, but it's not a truth. It's a story, an uninvestigated concept that I'm taking on as a truth. Because I'm feeling it, I think what I'm feeling must be actually what's happening. Definitely not the only one feeling that way. Right, exactly. Thanks for supporting each other in the comments. And if you're coming in new here, I'd love for you to vote in the poll, put in the chat, just how you're feeling about these things. Okay, so like your reality might include people reacting negatively to you, right? I think it was Gina who said, when she brings up that, what was the word you used? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, disrespected. When you bring that up, then the other person reacts, right? So your reality feels like, or your reality is that someone is negatively reacting to you, but that doesn't automatically mean that their reaction is a reflection of the truth. Their reaction, remember, they're just acting again based on whatever they're going through, but their reaction is not a truth about you. It's just like I said to Line with her mom, it's just really a reflection of what the other person is used to from you. So if they're not used to you speaking up because you've always been the silent one, the one that placates other people, whatever it is, then suddenly they're seeing a new you. And that doesn't mean the new you is wrong. That's not a truth about you. It's just their reflection of what they're experiencing. But again, it doesn't make it a truth about you just because someone else says that you're a problem or that you're being hurtful or that disappointed them. That doesn't mean that that's true about you. So what's true is always what's happening, not the story about what should be happening, right? Like, Lena, you don't want your mom to feel hurt, right? So you have this story about she shouldn't be hurt. I'm not doing anything wrong, but because she is hurt, then we turn this into a story about ourselves. and we make it then a truth. So I want to read you this story that she has at the beginning of the book. She said once, and again, this loving what is, and the link for this is down in the description. Once, as I walked into the ladies' room at a restaurant near my home, a woman came out of the single stall. We smiled at each other, and as I closed the door, she began to sing and wash her hands. What a lovely voice, I thought. Then, as I heard her leave, I noticed that the toilet seat was dripping wet. How could anyone be so rude, I thought. And how did she manage to pee all over the seat? Was she standing on it? She thought. Then it came to me that she was a man, a transvestite, singing falsetto in the woman's restroom. It crossed my mind to go after her, in parentheses, him, and let him know what a mess he'd made. As I cleaned the toilet seat, I thought about everything I'd say to him. Then I flushed the toilet. The water shot up out of the bowl and flooded the seat, and I just stood there laughing. In this case, she said the natural course of events was kind enough to expose my story before it went any further. Usually it doesn't, right? So we then step into it by reacting to something that happened when, again, we just create this story. She created this story in her mind in like less than a minute, probably, that this was a man, a transvestite, who had peed on the toilet seat and didn't clean up after himself, right? It was all just a made up story about what she thought was a truth, but it was just a story about something that an uninvestigated concept, like she says. So other people's discomfort, and this is kind of, I guess, veering off of what this story was about. But again, it's just about like how we create these stories based on how other people react toward us speaking up for ourselves, speaking our truth, living our life like we want to live our life. And if you're in midlife, I know, Emily, you're not yet, but you've spent a lot of time putting other people first. If you follow me, that's probably, what what you've done in your life, right? Spent a lot of time, and now maybe you've gotten to the point where you realize you've always put other people first, and how much it's taken away from your life, from living your dreams, from what was it that Gina said? From no, I can't remember. Sorry, I can't remember what you said. Having fun and living a joyful life, a fulfilling life, right? But when we start putting ourselves first, then suddenly when someone reacts, we take on that we're the problem, that we're the burden, that it's us that's doing something wrong, that we're the bad guy, right? And so this all stems from uninvestigated concepts about ourselves, which are typically beliefs that we have just thought for so long that we created this grassy what's the word I want? This path in the grassy field. Oh my. Hold please. My laptop's dying. And I'm going to get to the why do things have to be so difficult? I'm going to get to the the exercise that you can use to start challenging, right, to start investigating these concepts that you have about yourself. Well, now this is not going to work because now I can't see my notes. So, other people's discomfort isn't the proof of your wrongdoing, right? Them being disappointed, them reacting however they react isn't about you. It's not a moral judgment. And guilt can feel like truth, right? But it's often just the conditioning, like we talked about. It's just the patterning. It's just what you've felt for so long that you've just taken it on as a truth. And now I want to investigate the story, right? Your life doesn't become less valid because other people don't understand this new side of you. The healthy people in your life will be your greatest cheerleaders. They'll be like, hell yeah, we've been waiting for you to show up and speak up for yourself and stand up for yourself and start, you know, someone can't be truly connected to you when you aren't being your authentic self, right? They're connecting with a false a false image of you, a false persona. Persona actually means mask. And so if you're wearing this mask, how do they ever connect truly with the real you? Yes, I love life and ready to live it honestly. Great. Okay, so this book goes into um, an exercise that's really, really simple called the work. And what you do is when you have a thought, a feeling like there that I feel disrespected or I feel like I'm the problem. Maybe that's a better one, right? I feel like I'm the problem. Then you ask yourself, is it true? Is it true that I'm the problem? And this is so simple that it seems, um, you know, it seems not powerful because it's so simple. So you just ask, is what I'm feeling right now, is what I'm dreading or what I'm fearing, is it true? Yes or no? Right? There's no story about it. There's no judgment about it. It's just, is it true? Is it true that I disappointed them? Is it true that I'm responsible for them feeling disappointed? Is it true, Gina, that your partner, that you disrespected your partner? Is it true? Yes or no? Typically, we're going to find that these stories that we're telling ourselves are not ultimately a truth, right? They might be something real that we're feeling in the moment, but if it's not a truth, then what we're what we're feeling because of this thing is just a story, an uninvestigated story that we're telling ourselves. Yeah, Emily said the same thing. I don't want to disappoint anyone, right? But is it true by you being you, by you speaking what's true for you, what by you speaking up, by you speaking your opinion, is it true that you are disappointing someone? No, it's not, right? Ultimately, it's not. Here's the next question though. How do you react? What happens when you believe that it is true? When you believe that thought, when you believe that story, how do you react? How do you respond? How do you show up or not show up? Like maybe you think, "Oh my gosh, I said yes to this thing and I don't really want to go. I didn't want to say yes to begin with, but man, they're going to be so disappointed if I don't go. They're going to be mad at me. They're never going to talk to me again, right? Um, how do I react? How do I show up when I believe that that's true? I probably show up begrudgingly, right? I show up pissed off. Or maybe what happens is I don't show up at all. So, how do I act? And you're just looking at things that you believe, right? I think I'm going to disappoint someone if I do this. Is that true? Yes, maybe you say it's true. But the next question is, okay, when I believe that I'm going to disappoint someone, how do I react? What happens when I believe or think that thought? Does it bring stress? More stress into your life? Like Emily, you said last week, when I spend too much time on YouTube, right? To take my mind to numb from things, to cope, to take my mind off of things. How do you react then when you think about that? When you think that thought, does it bring more peace when you did that thing, or does it bring more stress? What images do you see, past or future, and what physical sensations come up as you think that thought and witness those images? What emotions arise when you believe that thought? And here's what we talked about last week. What obsessions or addictions, what coping mechanisms kick in when you live with that story, right? But, and then the last question, so that's basically there are three questions. Is it true? How do you react? What happens when you believe or think that thought? And who would you be without that thought? So, who would I be if I didn't worry about disappointing someone when I speak my opinion, when I speak my truth? How could I show up differently? How would my relationships be different? Right? And so investigating again, I'm basically gonna leave you with that because it's all about investigating these uninvestigated stories, right? The stories, the things that we think are real because they're happening, or we think they should be happening, or that they shouldn't be happening, but they're not actually a truth, right? So love, if you want to dive deeper, there is some amazing examples. Like she's written about real life people that she's taken through this um really kind of simple exercise, but how it opens up so much within you. Emily, I would encourage you to get it. Gina, I would encourage you to buy it. Again, the link is there. It By using my link, it doesn't charge you anymore. Amazon, it's the same price whether you use my link or not, but by using my link, you help me, you support me by giving me a buck from Amazon. Amazon gives me the buck. You don't pay anything more by doing that. Yes, Emily, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you being here. So, are there any questions that you have? Like, how can you start exploring these stories that you have about yourself? And this book can help you. There are practical, like I said, she takes a whole bunch of people through this exercise and gives their exact examples of what happened as they started investigating these stories. And for me, it's always amazing to see other people's, like, to for other people to share their shame and vulnerability and the things that they think and believe and the stories they've told themselves. Gina, you probably have some really horrific stories that you have told yourself about who you are from the abuse that you endured. And yeah, I'm glad you're here. You are so welcome. So, I'm glad it was insightful for you today. Again, I think this would be really beneficial. I think the book is like $11. Uh, and it will help you. And then you can come back to me, and ask questions. And I know, Gina and Emily, you're both in the inner circle. So come in there, put comments, questions that you have that come up for you around this, like what you're discovering, and I can help you work through further through them. So again, remember that I go live every Wednesday at 2:22 Eastern time. Uh, I just put out a video on Sunday. If you haven't watched that yet, it's there available for you on my regular channel. Also, awesome ordering the book. Also, that Codependence Anonymous book is in there. It probably is around 20 or $25. It's a really in-depth, it's a big, thick book, but there are lots and lots of stories in it about people who, broke free, and insights and ahas that they had about their codependency. And it takes you through, does it? I believe it takes you through the 12 steps of Codependence Anonymous. But that could be in conjunction with you, finding a Codependence Anonymous meeting in your area, or one online. I think there are a lot online. So those are some tools, some resources for you. I am so happy you're here, and I hope to see you next week at next week's live stream. And thanks for chatting in the chat. It always is helpful for me to, um, know how I can support you better. That's why I'm here. So thanks for being here. Have a great week, everyone. And I will see you next week.